Hello friends, welcome to our channel. I hope you are well and doing great. So today I'm back with another video to continue our question tutorial. As we have completed our two subtest section of question tutorial, verbal reasoning 1 and the decision making question tutorial. Now we are going to start from quantitative reasoning question tutorial. So welcome to the UCAT question tutorial for quantitative reasoning. So without wasting our time, let's move towards our first slide of this tutorial. So first we have an introduction of the quantitative reasoning section. This tutorial helps you to think about how to approach the quantitative reasoning section of the UCAT, and it covers the following points in these slides. First, an overview of the quantitative reasoning subtest and its timing. Second, strategies for approaching the different questions along with useful hints and tips. An outline of the different question types with examples of each for you to view and try. So these are the 3 points that we're going to learn in that section: an overview of quantitative reasoning and the strategies that how we're going to solve these questions, and different types of these quantitative reasoning subtests we'll learn in that section. Okay, now let's start from the quantitative reasoning overview. Quantitative reasoning assesses your ability to critically evaluate information presented in a numerical form. Questions are less to do with numerical ability and more to do with problem solving and knowing how to use data. Okay, in that portion, the quantitative reasoning question assess your ability, that how you're going to evaluate the information that will be given to you, and this information will be in a numerical form. But this reasoning will not have anything to with your numerical ability, but it will assess your ability, that how you're going to solve a problem, how you're going to use the data that will present it to you to conclude your answer. That will assess in this section. Okay, if we talk about the time, so we have only 25 minutes to solve this portion, and we have 36 questions included in this section. So 36 questions in 25 minutes, you have to solve all the questions in 25 minutes only. Questions may reference graphs, charts, or tables. It could be in the form of any graph, charts, or tables. Doctors and dentists are constantly required to review data and apply it to their own practice. On a practical level, drug calculation based on patient weight, age, and other factors must be correct. At a more advanced level, clinical research requires an ability to interpret, critique, and apply results presented in the form of complex statistic. So this portion will be important for doctors and dentists. They're required to review and data for their practice. The drug calculation that is based on patient's weight, age, and other factors, they can practice on these factors also. Universities considering applicants need to know they have the aptitude to cope in these situations. So that's why the clinical research ones, clinicians, the doctors, and the scientists have to be prepared for this section to solve these conclusions, that how they're going to use the data and how to solve a problem. Because universities considering these applicants, that how they cope with these type of uncertain situations. Most questions will be shown as sets of 4 questions connected to the same data. Okay, in these type of questions, more than one questions will be connected to the same data. They will provide you a graph, or it could be a table chart, and they will ask you 4 questions from that information, from that chart. However, there are some questions that stand alone and do not share data. Data may be obtained from tables, text, graphs, or charts. You must select the correct answer from the 5 answer options presented. Okay, so there are some questions that have only single information data to solve the more than one question. But there are some questions that stand alone and they do not share their data with any other questions. And the data that will be given to you in the form of questions will be in form of a table, text, graphs, or charts. 5 answer options presented to you, but you have to select the one correct answer. You have approximately 40 seconds per question. 40 seconds. You have to solve every question in 40 seconds. But some questions may take more than 40 seconds as they will be lengthy, they were the complex ones. So if you find any questions to be easier one, try to solve them in less than 40 seconds so you can save your time for the complex ones. Okay, now we have the quantitative reasoning strategies. Again, you need to understand the problem, find the relevant information, and then solve it. So how are you going to solve these type of questions? That you have to need to understand the problem that will present it to you. That may be in the form of a graph, chart, or table. When you understand the problem, then you have to try to find the relevant information that will be given to you in the answer options and then solve it. Focus on the questions being asked. There may be surplus or distracting information presented, which is not required to reach an answer. Read the question carefully, as individual words and units may be crucial in answering correctly. Okay, what you have to do is to focus on the questions that have been asked to you for. You have to read them very carefully. They may be surplus, or the information that will presented to you may distract you, which is not required to reach an answer. That's why Just focus on your question, focus on the information, try to read it very carefully. You may read it more than once. And then next we have key areas in quantitative reasoning. There are a number of key calculations you will need to perform. So revisit and practice your mathematical skills in these areas. So there are some key calculations that are given below that you need to perform to solve these problems, to solve these questions and practice your mathematical skills. First we have percentages. In percentage, what you have to be practiced for: basic percentages, percentage, reverse, equivalence to decimals, and fractions. Then we have proportions and ratios, proportionality, both direct and inverse, rates, rates of flow, speed, learn the speed, distance, and time triangle, averages, means, modes, medians, and ranges. These are some important topics of maths that you have to revise before solving these questions, because these type of questions will include in this portion. So you have to be master of these problems. Okay, now next we have about the calculator. As we have discussed in the tour tutorial, that a calculator will also be provided to you on your screen to calculate your data. So an on-screen calculator is available if you need it. The calculator does not perform scientific functions. It's just a simple basic calculator which solves basic calculations, not a scientific one. If you wish to move the calculator, click on it and drag. Okay, you just open it by clicking the calculator on a toolbar on the left top corner of your screen. But you wanted to move it or drag it on the other side of your screen. So how are you going to do it? You just have to click on a calculator that is written over the calculator and then drag it where you want it to, from left to right, right to left, up and down, wherever. Close the calculator by clicking the X button, or just move on to the next question. Okay, now if you wanted to close the X button and you don't want to move to the next question, you can click on the X button which will be provided here. So you can click on it and then your calculator will disappear from your screen. Or you can also move on to the next question, so it will also disappear your calculator. If you're using your keyboard number pad for calculations, ensure numlock is turned on. Okay, if you are not using your mouse, you are using your keyboard, then you can use your keyboard number pad for calculations. But you have to just make sure that numlock is turned on whenever you're going to use your calculator to start your calculations. Practice using the calculator in our official practice materials. So yeah, we will practice our calculator in our practice question tutorials. Then we will become master of the calculator, that how we're going to use it. You may not need the calculator for all questions. using mental arithmetic may save your time. Okay, not all the questions of this section need calculator. Only some of the questions, you can say most of the questions that in which we needed the calculator. But if you use your mental arithmetic, you can solve the data, you can solve these calculations in your mind. It will help you to save your time. But if you are not that much trained that you can solve these calculations in your mind, then obviously you can use your calculator. Otherwise it will consume more time to do calculations with your mind. It's advisable to use a combination of mental arithmetic and the calculator to achieve speed and accuracy. That's a very important and a nice point, that you are doing calculations and you wanted to save your time. You can use both of the things to calculate your data. A calculator and your mind, your mental arithmetic. It will help you to achieve a speed and accuracy and the best results. So you can do your calculations, some of the calculations in your mind, and then use it on the calculator. Use your permitted notebook and marker pen to assist with calculations if needed. So as we discussed that a notebook and a marker pen will be provided to you, so you can also use these notebook and a marker pen to draw some calculations if needed. If you are not comfortable in using calculator or your mental arithmetic, then you can use your permitted notebook and a marker pen to do some calculations. Okay, if you are finding a question difficult, eliminate the more obvious incorrect answers and make an educated guess. Okay, if you find any question very difficult, very complex, that you don't know that which answer is the correct one, then what you have to do is to first eliminate the one that you find most incorrect ones. It will help you to choose the most accurate answer. You could consider prioritizing some of the simpler or quicker questions first and flagging those you are finding time consuming to return to later. This may help you to manage your time more effectively. Okay, so if you find some questions very simple and some very complex or time consuming, then what you can do is to solve the questions that are simpler ones first, and other ones just leave them or flag them for review. So when you reach at the review screen, then you can solve the complex one. That's how you can solve your question easily and save your time. So here we have some example questions. Fuel consumption and carbon dioxide emissions of two family cars, one powered by a petrol engine and other by a diesel engine, are given in the table below. So that's how an information is given with some passage and with some table like this. In the question they ask that what is the difference in the fuel consumption for the term. Option A 9 liters, option B 10 liters, option C 12 liters, option D 16 liters, option E 18 liters. So here we have the calculation is 0.6 into 10 into 12 into 25 and divided by 100 equals to 18. So 0.6 because 10.3 minus 9.7 can use these data from here. So that's how you choose the option E, which is 18 liter is the correct answer. Next we have the table shows the approximate population in the urban and rural areas in the world in 4 different years. So here we have for urban areas 4 different years data of population, and for rural areas in 4 years data of population. So the question is, in the year in which there was the least percentage increase in urban population from the previous year, what was the approximate percentage increase in rural population from the previous year? Option A 1.45%, option B 9.67%, option C 16.40%, option D 33.80%, option E 39.15%. So here we have an answer that you can see that for the years 2 and 3, the urban population is around twice the previous years. So using 4 year as the least percentage increase, divide this with that. You should recognize that 1.0145 implies an increase of 1.45%, which is option A is correct. So the next question we have that the graph shows the distribution of height of boys between birth and 36 months. The solid line represents the median. The dashed line represents the height below which 5% of the very short boys lie. The dotted line represents the heights above which 5% of the very tall boys lie. So here is the data given in the form of a chart. You can conclude it from here. But the question is, what is the average rate of increase of the median between birth and 1 year old? Option A 0.55 centimeter per month. Option B 1.7 centimeter per month. Option C 2.2 centimeter per month. Option D 5.5 centimeter per month. Option E 22 centimeter per month. So here we have a correct option, which is option C. This is because the median line begins at 50 centimeter and reaches 76 centimeter to 12 months. The boys therefore grow 26 centimeter during those 12 months, an average of 26 by 12, which is equals to 2.17 or 2.2 centimeter per month. Okay, next. So here we have finished a quantitative reasoning question tutorial. I hope you guys understand each and every step, strategy, hints and the tips to solve these type of questions, and we have solved the examples, but we will practice more about this section also. So let's move to the other one, which is the abstract reasoning question tutorial. So let's start from its introduction. This tutorial helps you to think about how to approach how to approach the abstract reasoning section of the UCAT, and it covers an overview of the abstract reasoning subtest and its timing, strategies for approaching the different questions, along with useful hints and tips, an outline of the different question types with examples of each for you to view and try. So here we are again going to learn about an overview of the abstract reasoning subtest, the timing, the strategies, the tips and hints that we use to solve these problems, and some examples we'll see that how we're going to solve them. So let's start with an overview of abstract reasoning. Abstract reasoning assesses your ability to identify patterns amongst abstract shapes where irrelevant and distracting material may lead to incorrect conclusions. It assesses your use of convergent and divergent thinking to infer relationships from information. Okay, so here we have that abstract reasoning will assess your ability, that how you're going to identify the patterns, the shapes that will present it to you. And it will assess your kind of convergent and divergent thinking. The test therefore measures your ability to change track, critically evaluate and generate hypotheses, and requires you to query judgments as you go along. So here we have only 12 minutes to solve these questions, and 50 questions will be included in this section. So you have to complete 50 questions in 12 minutes only. These questions associated with sets of shapes. They are not in the form of any passage, in form of text, charts, tables or graphs, but they are in form of sets of shapes, and in the form of a question or in form of answer. Both will be in form of sets of shapes. When considering possible diagnosis, medical practitioners may be presented with a set of symptoms or results. Some information may be more reliable, more relevant, and clearer than other information. They need to make judgments from this, identifying the information which will help them reach conclusions. Carrying out research involving data often involves identifying patterns in results in order to generate further hypotheses. So, in medical practitioners, these type of questions will be easy for them, as they can identify the symptoms, identify a problem, you can say, and they can diagnose that by identifying the symptoms only, and then they can conclude that which diagnosis they have to use, which conclusion they reach by only identifying the symptoms. There are 4 different question types with this subtest. Most questions are shown in sets of 5, each connected to the same sets of shapes. However, some questions are stand alone. We will look at these question types first and then explore strategies for identifying the possible patterns or rules within these sets of abstract shapes. Okay, this portion will have 4 different type of questions. So most of the questions are connected to same type of data, but most of the questions are stand alone. They do not share any data with any other questions. So first we will look at the question type, and then we will see the strategies for every type, and we will look at the examples of every type of this portion. So first we have abstract reasoning question type 1. They don't have any specific name, we will just say them type 1, type 2. So for type 1, you will be presented with 2 sets of shapes labeled set A and set B. So 2 sets of shape will be provided to you, and each set have a name with set A and set B in a form of a question. You will then be given a series of 5 test shapes and asked to decide whether each belongs to set A, set B, or neither. Okay, as I told you that in the form of a question they will given you sets of shapes as set A and set B. Then they give you 5 shapes in form of an answers, and then they will ask that which shape belongs to which set, the two set A, set B, or neither. So here is an example of this question type. Like this one is the set A, and then this one is the set B. Now you have to look out it every shape, every set, and then here we have a question. This test shape is given, and the option we have option A set A, option B set B, and option A sets neither. Now you have to decide that this shape is connected to which set, and then you can choose your correct answer. So here we have that there is no link to the number of shapes in each box or the order they are positioned. The shading is only relevant to the shapes being mirror images. Set A rule: lower shapes are mirror images of upper shapes. Set B rule: right shapes are mirror images of left shapes. Rational: the correct answer is set A, as the lower shapes mirror the upper shapes. As you can see here, that like in this part, upper shape is the mirror image of the lower shape, like in the set A. In every part, upper and lower image is the mirror image of each other. That's why we have the right answer is option A, which is set A. Next we have abstract reasoning type 2. For type 2, you will be presented with a series of shapes and asked to select the next shape in the series from the 4 answer options provided. You need to identify what is changing between each box in the series. There are standalone questions, so try not to spend too long on each one. So for type 2, there is a series of shapes again, and you have to select the next shape in the series from the 4 answer options. So 4 answer options will be provided to you, and you have to select the one next shape for that series, which will given in a form of a question. And these questions are standalone questions, they do not share data with any other questions. So see an example of this question type. We have this one is a series of shapes, and now you have to complete this series by choosing one right option from there. So which figure completes the series? Option A is this box. You can see at these shapes. Option B, and then we have option C, and then option D. So here we have option A is the correct, and why? There is one square and one triangle. The square has a diagonal with a circle on the end. The triangle has a circle on one side. The circle and square move around the box by 90 degrees each time. The square itself turns by 90 degrees each time. The circle within the triangle moves in an anti-clockwise direction and alternates between black and white in each sequence. So figure A is correct. The circle attached to the square has to be on the bottom right. The triangle must have a black circle on the right hand side. So here we have this option, this set of shape is the correct to complete the series. Okay, now let's move towards our next type, which is type 3 for abstract reasoning question. For type 3, you will be presented with a statement involving a group of shapes. First we have set, then we have series. Now in the type 3 we have group of shapes relating to each other. You will be asked to determine which test shape out of the 4 options provided completes the statement. You need to identify what has changed between the 2 related boxes. Okay, then they will ask you to determine that which test shape out of the 4 options that will be given to you which complete the statement, which complete the group of shapes. So you have to identify that shape from the 4 option answers which related to the group of shapes. Again, these are the standalone questions, and here we have an example of this question type. So this shape is changed to this, as this one is changed to this. So which figure completes the statement? Here we have question. So you can take a look at these 4 options and you can deduce your calculations. So here we have a rule that right hand box has one more region in each of the 4 shapes as a corresponding shape in the left hand box. The top 2 shapes need to have 2 regions. The bottom left shape needs to have 4 regions. The bottom right shape needs to have 3 regions. Therefore, figure C is correct. This one. This option C, this set of shape is the correct. This one is related to the group of shapes. So by using this rule, you can conclude this answer. Every rule is different for every question, but you can remind it in your mind, you can memorize it, you can use it many of these questions. Now we have type 4. For type 4, you will be presented with 2 sets of shapes labeled set A and set B. So it's again like the type 1, in which only 2 set of shapes were given, set A and set B. You will be asked to decide which of the 4 test shapes given belongs to either set A or set B. So 4 test shapes will be given to you in the form of answer options, and you have to select which shape belongs to which set. You may have a number of questions associated with each set of shapes. So these are not the standalone questions. More than one question will be associated with each set of shapes. So here we have an example of this question. So this one is set A and this one is set B. So now you can take a look at these shapes. Question is, which of the following test shapes belongs in set B? So they ask about set B, so you have to focus on the set, that which type of shapes are included in the set, and then you can take a look at every option, that which one is related or belongs to the set B, like this. So here we can see set A rule. All corners are white circles, an even number of lines leave each white circle. Set B rule, either 2 or 4 corners have black circles, an odd number of lines leave each black circle. An even number of lines leave each white circle. Figure D is correct. There are 2 black circles, each with an odd number of lines. There are 3 white circles, each with an even number of lines. So that's why we have the correct option is option D. This belongs to the set B. Abstract reasoning strategies. There are a load of questions to get through, so it's important to keep your eye on the timer, because there are more questions than the time. If you can't see the pattern, don't waste time. Select an answer, flag these questions, and move on to the next set of shapes. It means if you don't know the pattern, if you don't understand it, that how to solve it, how to belong this one, then don't waste your time. Just select this answer, flag it for review, and move on to the next set of shapes. So it will not consume or waste your time. The more you practice, the quicker you will become at spotting the patterns and rules within these set of abstract shapes. This portion of the abstract reasoning one required the practice. More than any knowledge, it needs only practice. It's just your mind that how you're going to solve it. No knowledge is needed to solve these set of shapes. Some possible rules are given on the next few slides that you can use to solve your answers. So these are the possible rules or patterns for shapes. Could be simple, such as every box has 3 triangles, or more complex, such as every box has 3 shaded triangles. Arrangement: where in the box are the shapes positioned? Example, always a shape in the top left corner, or is one shape always opposite to or adjacent to one another? Are arrows pointing in a certain direction? Consider symmetry in boxes and lines of symmetry within the shapes. Rotation: do the shapes follow a pattern? Example, from left to right, each shape or arrow has been rotated 90-degree clockwise. Number: finite number of something. Example of shapes, sides, angles, right angles, intersection, overlaps, shapes touching the sides of the box, or use of odd or even numbers. And sequencing numbers may increase or decrease across the series. Color or shading: do the shapes follow a shading pattern? Example, all squares are black, all the circles are white, etc. Intersection: does an arrow always intersect a straight line? Touching sides: example, are there always 3 lines touching the sides of the box, or is there always a downwards arrow touching the side? Could be combined with another aspect. Example, any line with an intersecting arrow always touches the side of the box. Enclosure: are the shapes within shapes? Example, there is always a shape with an even number of sides surrounding a shape with an odd number of sides. So these are these patterns or rules that you have to memorize to solve these type of questions that will help you to conclude your answers. So again, we have some: if you are struggling, look at the simplest box, as the pattern must be present in every box. The few items in the box, the fewer rules to test. Using an acronym for common rules may help you to remember them. Just jot these down in the 1-minute introduction section. So that's how you can use them. Canister: color shading, arrangement, number, intersection, shape, touching sides, enclosure, and then rotation. If you memorize them, you learn all these things, that it will easy for you to solve these questions. So here we have finished or complete our abstract reasoning tutorial. I hope you guys understand that how we're going to solve these type of questions. Don't need to worry, we will solve it. We will practice these questions in the next videos. Okay, now here we have the last question tutorial, which is situational judgment question tutorial. So let's start from its introduction. This tutorial helps you to think about how to approach the situational judgment section of the UCAT, and it covers an overview of the situational judgment subtest and its timing, strategies for approaching the different questions, along with useful hints and tips, an outline of the different questions types, with examples of each for you to view and try. Situational judgment overview. The test measures your capacity to understand real world situations and to identify critical factors and appropriate behavior in dealing with them. Situational judgment tests, or SJTs, as they are commonly referred to, are used widely in postgraduate medical and dental selection. So in these type of questions, they will assess your ability that how you're going to solve the real world situations, what factors, what tricks, what hints you will apply to solve these situations, how you're going to judge them. So 26 minutes will be provided to you in this section to solve the 69 questions. Various scenarios with up to 6 associated questions will be provided to you. The situational judgment test assesses perspective taking, team involvement, resilience, integrity, and adaptability. These are some factors that are needed to solve this one. You are presented with a set of hypothetical scenarios based in a clinical setting or during educational training for a medical or dental career. Each scenario may have up to 6 associated questions. Questions do not require medical or procedural knowledge. Full marks are awarded for a questions if your response matches the correct answer, and partial marks are awarded if your response is close to the correct answer. So in that section, hypothetical scenarios will be provided and you have to judge the right answer, conclude your appropriate option. And each scenario will be associated with 6 questions. They are not standalone, they are associated with each scenarios. So if you choose the correct option, full marks will be awarded to you. But if you choose the close one that could be true, that will be the most related to the correct answer, then half marks, that could be say partial marks, will be awarded to you. So it means no complete deduction of marks. Read each scenario and answer thoroughly before answering. Remember, there are different styles of questions, so read the instructions carefully to make sure you understand what you have to do. Make sure you answer from the perspective of the correct character as identified in the question. Answer options provided are not intended to represent all possible options to the given scenario. Consider the answer options irrelevant of time frame. It may still be correct even if it's not something that can be done immediately. For questions where you are rating a response in terms of importance or appropriateness, each rating can be used more than once or not at all. For example, all answer options associated with a scenario could be given the same rating of very appropriate. You need to make a judgment about the answer option independent from the other questions associated with the scenarios. For questions where you are deciding which is the most and least appropriate action, all of the options may be good actions to take. The question is asking you to prioritize or rank them. Listen to and respect the concerns and opinions of others. This may include colleagues, patients, and family members. Working collaboratively and with respect is always important. As I say, dishonest or misleading answers will almost certainly always be inappropriate. Receiving feedback, both positive and negative, is a normal part of the learning process. You should not assign any personal biases or beliefs. It is important to recognize your limits and know when to seek help or support. Where scenarios relate to clinical settings, treat others with respect and sensitivity. Never be dismissive. The overriding consideration should always be to the patient's well-being and safety. Never act in a manner that will bring the profession into disrepute. Always maintain patient confidentiality. Ensure the patient views are considered. A patient with mental capacity should always be involved with decisions regarding their treatment. If you are struggling with this subtest, we recommend reading the GMC guidance on good medical practice as part of your preparation. Previous high scoring candidates said they have found it helpful to apply the general principles contained in this document to the scenarios in these questions. There are two types of questions. Some questions ask you to rate the importance or appropriateness of a series of statements in response to each scenario. Other questions require you to rank the appropriateness of the three answer options by choosing the most and least appropriate action to take in response to the situation. Rating questions. These situational judgment questions provide you with a scenario and ask that you rate the importance or appropriateness of each response from a particular individual's perspective. There are 4 answer options, but you are only able to select one response. For this question type, you can still be awarded partial marks if your answer is close to the correct answer. Answer options for this question type and example questions are given on the next few slides. So when considering the importance of certain options, an option is very important if this is something that is vital to take into account. Important if this is something that is important but not vital to take into account. minor importance if this is something that could be taken into account, but it does not matter if it is considered or not. Not important at all if this is something that should definitely not be taken into account. So here we have an example, like this passage will be given to you, and how important to take into account is the following consideration for Jules when deciding how to respond to the situation. Mrs. Chopra's entitlement to be able to make her own decisions about her health and lifestyle. So this type of options will be given to you and you have to choose the correct one. So here we have the correct option, which is option A, very important. Next we have reading question, which is appropriateness. A very appropriate thing to do or say if it will address at least one aspect, not necessarily all aspects of the situation. Appropriate but not ideal. If it could be done, but it's not necessarily a very good thing to do. Inappropriate but not awful. If it should not really be done, but would not be terrible. A very inappropriate thing to do. If it should definitely not be done and would make the situation worse. So again, here we have a question: how appropriate is the following response by Gamma in this situation? Like this, they will give you the options and you have to choose the right one. So the right option is appropriate but not ideal. Ranking questions, most or least appropriate. These questions require you to choose the most and least appropriate action to take in response to the situation from the three actions provided. This is essentially asking you to rank the answer options in terms of appropriateness. This question type uses drag and drop functionality. You will not receive any marks for these questions unless you select both the most and least appropriate actions. So here's an example of this question type, like this. Choose both one most appropriate action and one least appropriate action that Laura should take in response to this situation. Now these are the three situations and you have to choose two of them, most appropriate one and the least appropriate one. So here we have these: most appropriate response B and response C. So here we have finished our situational judgment question tutorial. Thank you for completing the situational judgment question tutorial. And we have discussed all the 5 types of UCAT preparation test: verbal reasoning, abstract reasoning, quantitative reasoning, decision making, and the situational judgment question. These are the only question tutorial that what types are included in these, what type of questions can come, what are the strategies we can use in these type of questions. But we will start our practice on each and every section subtest of questions in the next videos. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, you learned something from me. If you still have any confusion, you can ask me in the comment section. I'll be back with another video. Till then, just take care.